Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to say thank you so much for all the patience and hi to all the ones who've just walked in. I'm Rupam Gupta. I'm the co-founder of the PAP Summit, People Against Patriarchy. I would like to welcome you all to the first ever Patriarchy Summit that's happening in India and globally. We're gathered here today not just for a conversation, but a movement that challenges outdated norms, questions, and status and pushes for real, tangible change. Patriarchy isn't just about gender, which you will know in the panels today. It's about the power, opportunities, and the freedom. It shapes our workplaces, our homes, our leadership, and even our own perspectives to ourselves. Today, we bring together change makers, disruptors, and fearless voices, leaders from business, media, activism, and beyond. Who are we to unlearn, rethink, and rebuild a world that works for everyone? Yes, we are. So get ready to be challenged, to be inspired, and to be empowered. This isn't just an event, and I hope you all believe it by the end we leave today. After all the 6 panels, it's the beginning of something bigger, something that we want to do on, something we want to do breakout sessions about, something that we want to create really into a movement and bring that change, which is so necessary. I would like to request Sanjukta to actually come and introduce the panel for the first one to begin.
Thank you, Rupam. Can you all see me from behind the podium? So before I say anything about the first panel, let me just say that I'm a feminist and I have my founder and co-founder support in saying this, that this event is being organized by feminists. So we are all feminists. The first panel is diversity in the workplace, new world, old challenges. We would now play a video and audio visual to give you an overview of this panel. Can we please have the audio visual?
India, the world's fastest growing economy, is home to a diverse talent pool. Yet, workplace diversity remains a challenge. Women make up 48% of India's population, yet they hold only 19% of senior leadership roles. Caste-based discrimination still exists, and LGBTQ plus individuals often struggle for workplace acceptance. Despite corporate policies, only 11% of board seats in India are held by women, and over 50% of working women drop out by mid-career due to societal pressures. But change is happening. Indian startups are leading the way. Companies like TCS, Infosys, and Zomato are championing gender-neutral policies, inclusive hiring, and LGBTQ plus rights. An inclusive workplace fosters innovation, productivity, and economic growth. Studies show that companies with diverse teams in India outperform competitors by 25% in profitability. The new world demands a new mindset. Are we ready to embrace it? India, the world's fastest growing economy.
Thank you. Am I audible? Thank you. I now invite my panels. The first speaker for this panel is Dimple Mittal. She is the head of business development at AAFM India. She's a seasoned professional with over 18 years of experience in business development, marketing, and education consulting. She has played a pivotal role in guiding more than 20,000 individuals and has led personality development workshops for over 60,000 students across more than 500 schools. With a strong foundation in both corporate and academic sectors, she spearheads strategic growth initiatives, fosters industry academic partnerships, and enhances brand recognition for AAFM. Under her leadership, AAFM has solidified its reputation as a premier institution in financial education across India. Welcome, Dimple. I now call Tanushri Bhaumik. Tanushri is the partnership coordinator for We Power at the World Bank. She supports partnerships and national chapters in India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. Tanushri has 2.5 decades of experience in working in international development and finance with institutions like the UNDP, Australian Aid, World Bank, and Government of India. She has worked on energy access, demand-side management, renewable energy, and infrastructure. She specializes in looking at traditionally gender-blind sectors from a gender perspective. While in UNDP, she facilitated the first report that looked at rural electrification from a gender and socioeconomic lens. She also managed the first project on involving women self-help groups in distribution management and commercial functions of distribution. Welcome, Tanushri. My next panel is Rupam Gupta, the co-founder of PAP Summit, who is not just the co-founder of the PAP Summit, but is also a distinguished brand management professional with over 15 years of experience. As the founder of Nothing, an intimate essential brand, Rupam has demonstrated exceptional leadership in the industry with leadership positions in Marks & Spencer and Bata, India. Welcome, Rupam. And I now call the moderator for this session, Bilal Hassan. Bilal is a corporate leader with 23 years of experience across diverse organizations and geographies. He has worked with Fortune 500 companies like Airtel, Monster.com, and Hindustan Times, as well as emerging firms such as Zomato, Myntra, and CollegeDeco.com. His expertise spans individual and leadership roles, managing diverse teams across India, the Middle East, and Europe. With experience leading all-male, all-female, and multicultural teams, he has successfully overseen professionals from various backgrounds, ranging from entry-level graduates to IIM alumni. Welcome, Bilal.
Thank you.
And now over to you, Bilal.
Hi, good morning, everyone. How you are feeling? Oh, absolutely, because in the Moit's first session, and first session has to be action-packed so that everyone is fully utilized and takes loads of insights from what all we'll be discussing. First of all, thank you for inviting us as a moderator. And what I've heard that this is the first of its kind summit, which is the PAP Summit, not only in India, but I guess I've heard that globally it's the first of its kind. So thank you, organizers. Kudos to everyone whosoever has part of it. And as the topic for today is diversity in workplace, anyone of you, what exactly you mean by diversity? Anyone from the audience? Okay, yeah. Different? Sure, absolutely. Anyone else wants to share something? Wonderful. Absolutely, you all are right. That diversity is basically all kind of workforce, be it religion, be it from different language, culture, all sorts of people. And I'm sure that it's one of the most sought after topics no one has discussed in the past. But I'm sure that each and every panelist what we have today, so we would have loads of things to be shared, loads of things to be debated, and I'm sure each one of you, whosoever is present here, would be having something or the other taken from this particular session. So I look forward for the first question. I'm sure that because all the panelists have from a different background. Someone is from energy sector, someone is from education. Rupam herself is, from a brand management now. She's an entrepreneur. So first question from Dimple, I would say. As a woman in business development, what patriarchal challenges have you faced in your career and how did you overcome them? I'll just repeat a question. As a woman in business development, what patriarchal challenges have you faced in your career and how did you overcome them?
Thank you, Bilal. First of all, a big thanks to the entire team of PAP Summit. It is wonderful gathering here, and I'm sure the event, attempt, or the initiation that you have done, you are trying to knit a beautiful gathering and a beautiful concept. A big round of applause for the entire team of PAP Summit. Kudos. Thank you so much. Coming to the question, Bilal,
you asked what is diversity inclusion, I would like to start my answer with this. How many of you have heard the concept diversity inclusion? I would like to break it down in a very simple definition. You would like to answer, please. No problem. There is a power, there is a noise. You can speak louder, and I am sure we all hear you.
Discrimination.
थैंक यू मैं ना बहुत सिंपल तरह से पढ़ाती हूँ. आई हैव 2 चिल्ड्रन और मेरे बेटे को मैंने अभी 10th पास किया है, 11th में एडमिशन कराया है. अभी सबका ड्रीम होता है. सो ही इज़ अगेन एन IIT एस्पिरेंट, जस्ट गॉट एडमिशन इन एन इंस्टीट्यूट. आई ब्रेक डाउन थिंग्स इन अ वेरी सिंपल वे. आई लीड अ लार्ज टीम एंड मेरी टीम ऐसा मुझे कहती है कि वॉट एवर आई एक्सप्लेन आई ट्राई माई बेस्ट considering that the person does not know. So I break it down for a very simple definition and answer to this. Diversity, as per me, is a noun. Okay? So noun is, it could be name, it could be, we all know what is noun, right? It is name, person, place, anything that is. So diversity is a noun which is a variety. It could be anything. And we will go back to the concept. The diversity includes your religion, your gender, ethnicity, your skills. It could be anything. Inclusion is a verb. Inclusion is a verb. I repeat it for all of you. Inclusion is a verb and verb is an action verb. So it's a time for us to be in action. Diversity inclusion is a beautiful concept considering that now we are going to act on it. Are we all ready for the action? This event is very powerful and we are bringing life to it. So you have to be with me. Are we all with it? We are all in action now. There have been enough talks around this concept and it's the time for us to be in action. Because I believe diversity is not to be debated but celebrated. So this is what I would like to begin my answer on. Coming back to the business development roles that I have been into. I started my career with Procter & Gamble, P&G. In P&G, there was a product Whisper. So it's again a female-centric product. So when I started, it was my first job coming out from Miranda House, doing economics honors, going after the graduation, landing in a job where you are selling Whisper. What do I tell my family where I'm working? Am I working with Procter & Gamble or I'm working with a department which is Whisper? So I started my career like this and I'm very powerful and happy that I learned a lot from my first job. And it was a sales job. It was a marketing job where I had to deliver presentation to the girl children. So that is why I think Sanjukta also mentioned in my intro that I delivered presentation to more than 500 schools where I covered around 60,000 girl children. And it was a mother-daughter workshop where I used to tell about that what you have to do because now you're growing, the changes that we are seeing in us. And that is where I think the roots instilled in me that yes, I can do marketing, I can interact with people, I can do sales. Coming to the BD part of my corporate journey of around 20 years, it's not less than any challenge, but I'm very happy to announce today that I am one of the only board members in my company. So there are 6 board members in my company. I'm the only female along with other 5 male counterparts. So that is one of the achievements.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. So yeah, coming back to the challenges I've faced, I think Sanjukta also said, new world, old challenges. We're all sitting here and we are in the new world. And I'm not denying the fact that we have been improving, we have been vocalizing about this concept, but there's still a lot more to be done. And I think each one of us in the society and the corporate world and the activists and the people like PAP Summit team who are doing this, I think it's very, very crucial. The challenge, I would say, one of the biggest challenge I as a woman faced in the BD role is the networking dinners. So in my corporate sector, when we do sales, the sales is to be celebrated. The numbers are to be discussed in the meetings. And when we go for off-site events, when we do events, I started working when I was in 2006 when I started working after my college. And the second job is when I had my 5-year-old boy. And I joined a sales job and managing a 5-year-old boy with a job. So the first time when I was asked to travel, it is like, how will you travel? You have such a small child and you're feeding, right? But I will not shy with the fact that I traveled, I managed, and there are different challenges, but I think Rupam would know now. She's developing those products also. So I faced a lot of issues like that being a mother and you are supposed to travel because you're in a sales job. And sales job is very challenging. I mean, yet you get a lot of credits. It is a high-paying job, but you have to come up that you are a leader. So networking dinner, traveling offline, traveling to events, I think this was the challenge that I faced, but I managed it well. So when I was going to networking dinner, it is like, I was discussing with Bilal also, should we speak more as a woman? So should we think that people think that she speaks so much, what does she want? Is her character fine? So ये भी एक challenge मैंने face किया. अगर आप कम बोलेंगे तो आपको कहा जाएगा कि आप रिजर्व हैं, आप में एटीट्यूड प्रॉब्लम है. और ये मैं आज तक फेस करती हूँ. मुझे नहीं समझ में आता है कि आपको बहुत ज़्यादा बोलना है या बहुत कम बोलना है. बट येस, विद मेच्योरिटी एंड आई थिंक विद एज वी हैव कम टू मैनेज दिस. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैंने अपने सेल्स जॉब में ये 2 चीज़ें फेस करी कि नेटवर्किंग डिनर्स को कैसे मैनेज करना है और आपको ट्रैवल कैसे करना है. Recently, I had an event in Guwahati when my son was appearing for 10th board science examination. And people will think me crazy. Is she a crazy mother that she is traveling on her son's board exam? But I still did. So that's how I managed. And I think in sales job, it is challenging. But we have to emerge as leaders and we have to manage these challenges. Networking dinner में क्या होता था? सब लोग drink कर रहे हैं, drink का glass पकड़ लिया, अभी पीना है नहीं पीना, it's my choice. So a lot of times I used to hold hands. A lot of times I had taken a sip also. Most of the times I just threw that. And nobody would know whether I'm drinking or I'm not drinking.
Interesting perspective.
And I pretend that I am drunk, but I don't even touch. So that's
Wonderful. Thank you, Dimple. So the interesting perspective that you defined very well, diversity as noun and inclusivity as verb. So which is wonderful, and thanks for sharing, such incidents. And I've been part of the team, and a lot of ladies who were part of my team, and they were facing the similar kind of stuff. But I'm sure that nowadays, a lot of sales professionals are ladies, which is commendable. And of course, we have evolved over the years. The second question for you is, many women struggle with breaking into leadership roles. What systematic barriers do you think still exist, and how we can address them?
So as I mentioned that I am one of the I'm the only women board member in my company, where there are 6 in total we are. The 4 are directors, other is the country head, and I'm the 6th one. So right now I'm introduced as business head, and on my visiting card today it is a business head. But very, very happy and blessed that tomorrow my designation would be Deputy CEO. And it is going to be announced in my company, and it will be going on social media. So tomorrow is a day where it is lined up. It was supposed to happen today, but because of the summit, I delayed it for tomorrow. So tomorrow is a day when I'll be announced as Deputy CEO in my company.
Can we have a big hand for this lady, Dimple?
Thank you so much. So, but yes, leadership roles, I lead a team where I have 70 team members in my team, but 70% are women and 30% are men. But I have seen in my experience, as per the data also, that only 5% of Indian women are CEOs. So that's the kind of a challenge that we have seen a lot of numbers at junior and middle management. But at the top, we still find that only 17% of the board seats are filled by women, and experiencing the same in my family. So I think what I would recommend this is that there should be an unbiased process in hiring. So it could be with the help of AI. I'm not too sure how it is going to work, but I think AI is developing, doing good in a lot of HR hiring practices. I think, Bilal, you would also coming on the one side of it.
Yeah.
So I think we can take the help of AI so that we have unbiased hiring. Second, I think there should be transparent policies, the promotion policies. So I think it is not still transparent that, if I have to aspire as a leader in my organization, what are the policies? Does that define on the basis of my gender? So there should be transparent policies is what I feel. Then there is a lot of wage gap disparity is what I feel. For the same job role, women are paid less. Reason again, I will say, ऑफिस के बाद कैसे काम करेंगे, बच्चे हैं कैसे मैनेज करेंगे, मेटर्निटी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन इतना ज़्यादा है हम लोग की लीडरशिप पोजीशंस में कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में 43% ऑफ द वुमेन फेस मेटर्निटी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन आफ्टर कमिंग बैक टू वर्क. So this is again very high, and there could be policies like paternity leaves. Why, if the mother has given a birth, is it only she is required to take care of the child in those 30 days or 40 days initially? I think our father is equally responsible. And there had been a lot of discussions in the past in various events about paternity leaves. So I think AI, then paternity leaves, then the transparent,
So absolutely, you want me to say that AI would certainly
Yes.
play a very vital role.
I think it is very
Thank you.
important.
Thank you, Dimple.
Thanks.
So similar questions I would have with Tanushri. Women struggle with breaking into leadership role. What systematic barriers do you think still exist, and how we can address them?
Thanks, Bilal, and thanks everyone. I think this is a wonderful initiative, long due. And what I like is, and this is commendable to all the co-founders, you've put it right out there. There's no shying away. This is people against patriarchy. We're not shying away from saying it. Yes. Now, coming to your question, I think, we can talk about organizational policies, progressive laws, but I would like to make a start somewhere else. I think till we ignore the fact that women, especially Indian women, do the highest amount of unpaid domestic labor in the country, in the world,
true.
We will not be talking about the entire picture. Now, what stops women from getting into leadership roles? I come from the energy sector and I work...
I guess that's what we were discussing, that energy and infrastructure is one of the sectors where there's seldom you would see, women in leadership. Not only leadership, it's about the composition of women in that sector.
So I work both in energy and infrastructure. I've spent 2.5 decades working in South Asian energy sector. The energy sector still does one of the worst in terms of numbers. There are just 8% women that the Indian energy sector employs. The renewable energy sector does considerably better at 28%. Traditional energy sector, it's just 8%. Out of that, only 3% work in in technical roles. So we only see 3% engineers, women engineers in energy. When it comes to leadership role, it's a stretch, and we stretch it to 1%. So that's what the energy sector looks like. Okay.
Which is a mind-boggling number. Only 1%, which is
absolutely
negligible, I would say.
Absolutely. Now, there are sector-specific reasons for it, and then there are reasons which affect all sectors. And I think that's why when you say it's a new world, old challenges, it is very significant. Because, what stops women from rising up in the leadership role, those challenges haven't changed in decades that we have been talking about. It's a new world because I think technology throws up immense opportunities for women to break those barriers. And why do I say it? Power or energy is considered male-centric. It's considered, heavy engineering, power plants. The moment you say it, the visual imagery of it is what we traditionally consider very male. Having said that, technology has changed a lot of it. We have a partner who has a very interesting point.
So I guess because of the technology advancement, things have changed drastically. Okay.
You see, the power sector is, barring a few jobs, there is an interesting observation that a lot of us make now, saying when you recruit, say, an engineer from IIT Delhi, which male engineer do you see climbing up a pole and fixing anything? So, men are not doing it, women are not required to do it either. Yeah. So it's not as, gendered role as we think it is. But why do not women climb up? Because, as I said, Indian women do 90% of domestic unpaid labor. Indian women take up most of the caregiving work.
I guess this is the biggest in
exactly.
terms of
this is the
percentage.
Biggest challenge.
Yeah,
absolutely. This is highest in the world.
Yeah.
Also, you look at our domestic spaces, you were talking of paternity leave. A lot of companies, all government companies, organizations have a paternity leave. There is a bias against men actually taking paternity leave. And that bias exists not just amongst men, it also exists among women. Let me put it out there. Patriarchy is a structure, women subscribe to it too, as much as men do. Let's not forget that.
Absolutely, totally agree.
We are talking about a structure, we are not talking of men or women. You're talking of, we see that when it comes to women engineers, India, poses an interesting dichotomy to the world. We have the largest number of women engineers who pass out of our engineering colleges. We have one of the lowest number of that translating into high-paying heavy jobs like energy or infrastructure. Why does that happen? The perceptual barriers that these are male sectors.
I guess this is another point, like a lot of engineering colleges, initially maybe when you must have graduated, so there would be very negligible number in terms of passing out engineers or who are part of, doing the engineers. But now things have changed in terms of a lot of women engineers are now coming up.
As I said,
Do you feel, yeah?
India has the largest number of women engineers in the world. We have more women who complete higher STEM than men do. Not all sectors attract women because you don't see women. Now, young girls do not join energy sector because you don't see enough women leaders. This is a dichotomy, right? Because there are not enough.
Yeah.
Second, there is a certain point at which Indian women tend to drop out of jobs. Again, India poses a second interesting dichotomy to the world, where the third largest GDP and one of the fastest growing GDP in the world for the last decade and a half, we have seen a steady decline in women's labor force participation at a certain age. Why does that happen? You will see that it matches at an age where women get married, second when women have a child, or when parents or in-laws get older. Women drop out because of their caregiving roles. Now, unless as leaders, as managers, as senior management or lawmakers, we understand that we cannot look away from work-life balance if we want diverse workplaces, this is not going to work out. Now, the key here is to empower women, that's true, but according to me, the key here is to normalize caregiving roles for men. Unless Indian men step up and take up caregiving roles, we are not going to see drastic changes in women in leadership roles. Absolutely. We are not going to see drastic changes in women as leaders. Because,
interesting perspective, absolutely.
You will fight the lesser battle, right? A battle of giving up a career is way less emotionally harassing for anybody, not just women, than the battle of having to face the society or family. That's a fact.
Thank you, Tanushri. Interesting perspective in terms of over the years how women have evolved, that too from energy and infrastructure sector. She's been leader herself and she's aware that how we have evolved. So the similar question we have with Rupam, who has an interesting career. She is a brand lady and now she is an entrepreneur. So the same question I would, pinned out to you as well, that women struggle with breaking into leadership roles. What systematic barriers do you think still exist and how we can address them?
Bilal, so I'll just start with one thing. A lot of times, a lot of people question me that how do you create a work-life balance? And I always tell them that there is no work-life balance. My kids chase me to my meeting room or to my workplace, and I chase them to their playrooms. So there is no work-life balance, and there are...
Actually, work-life balance has a different definition, and I guess still people feel that whether 8-9 hours putting into the workplace is right enough, or maybe even if we are 2 hours productive and we are able to balance our lives, which is, equally good. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not even about the number of hours. I think as an entrepreneur, you are thinking about what you want to build. Entrepreneurship is all about building something. When you build something, you don't stop midway or you don't stop thinking about it. Similarly, when you create kids, you cannot stop. Like today was the first day for my child in a new school and I couldn't go. But it's okay. When he grows up, he will understand that mom was busy doing something very productive. So I think it is all about managing everything. It is not about, just trying to display that I worked for 10 hours and I am working. I think we've crossed that stage. A lot of times I have, given a pitch presentation for my business. I've spoken to multiple investors in the country and outside. And my product is such, I co-founded the brand called The Woman's Company with my partner. And we made sanitary napkins. We made tampons and menstrual cups. So it was a challenge that time to show them how to insert a menstrual cup. I would have men walk out of the room saying that we'll just go get some water, or, and I said, I'm talking about my product in which you will probably invest.
It's a recent development, or you have seen that still there are, it's a
Still.
taboo subject.
So Bilal, you won't believe my new brand, which is called Nothing. We make intimate essentials. We make nipple pasties, nipple lifters, and bust enhancers. Imagine what all synonyms do I have to use to actually tell them what the brand is. So I think there is still a lot of development that needs to take place when it comes to women feeling empowered. Getting empowered is fine. I empower you, you empower me. But are you feeling being empowered? Are you feeling the freedom to talk what you want to, but without the other person perceiving it in a certain manner?
Initially, were you skeptic about discussing, or of course, this is your product, this is your company. So initially, you must be facing that, okay, somebody is looking at a different angle altogether, the kind of questions you were putting in and the kind of investments you were asking? Or was it like,
I think the number of washroom breaks these men took gave me a hint that something's not right about what I'm using.
Interesting point, yeah.
So I thought maybe I'll change the word nipples to something else, which is more decent, but I just can't find any other name. Because that's what it is. So I think there's still a lot of improvement that needs to happen. A lot of, perception creation has to happen. I'm just hoping my next brand does not kill them. But I'll
Anyone from the audience have the similar stuff? Yeah, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's really amazing to be part of this summit, and in continuation to the discussions that we are having, because I am also a mother, and regarding this.
So just keeping mine in time. So we have, we need
Yes,
to wrap
I
it
will
up. So
just
we
bring
will
it
take the
short.
questions afterward. Any specific thing you want to put it?
This, I think about this, especially menstruation cups and all. I really want to say that we read this patriarchy as a term. I think we need to initiate from the childhood. Like from the age of 3 or 4, or like I think by the age of 8, because the girls are also getting the periods early these days. So like ma'am already said, I think 60,000 girls she gave training to. But it's high time to engage with the boys as well in the schools. Because in schools also, especially these days, very recent development that I have seen in many private schools, like Modern is one of the brand name that I can say too. So there's a clear like discriminations. No, firstly, I would want to say that kids don't play together, boys and girls. These days, that is a very recent development I'm seeing and asking other parents also in the peer group. Boys and girls, they don't play together first. And from the age of 3, 4, from the class of 2, 3. Second, regarding puberty, I think it is very important to start having discussion from this age only, because then this inhibition that she had faced, like talking about the menstruation cup and men's walking out, because we have never seen men discussing. And third, also the woman at home, because I have a family member only, science teacher in a very reputed school, and she deals with class 6, 7th. Sure. But when her daughter gets her period, she asked me not to talk about it in front of a child. She will hush it out. So we really need to empower our own women also, that it is not a taboo, it is a natural biological process that we all go through. And we have to tell our boys also. I have a 9-year-old boy. I have already spoken to him about periods too. So that if his
absolutely, I guess
also
parents have to expose the kids,
yes,
in
it
a
is
very
very
early
important,
age.
so that we can have a better
Thank
future.
you, ma'am. What's a good name?
Devjani.
Devjani, can we have a big hand for Devjani? We'll come to you, ma'am, once we'll conclude the panel. Another interesting question, I guess it is for all three. Women in leadership often face a scrutiny about their competence. And this we have been discussed many a times, that okay, whether a woman is competent enough to be a leader or not. And have you ever had to work harder to prove yourself? And how do you tackle such biases? Anyone?
I would like to open this, and then my co-panelists can add to it.
Yeah, just a request, because we need to wrap it up because we have a limited time. But still, I guess this is being the first session. So maybe we might extend, but yeah, we'll try to wrap it up.
Can I just
Okay.
say one?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, please
Can
go
I-
ahead.
Just one point from the organizers. If you hear a buzz, that means we have to cut short the conversation.
Please, absolutely. So please keep that thing in mind, yeah.
Okay, so in
Hear
corporate and leadership role, 1% increase in diversity and inclusion that we're talking about, it leads to around 3 to 9% increase in the revenue. So that's the kind of power diversity inclusion has, in leadership roles. And as you said, that leadership role, I think it is very, very important. Yes, we have to prove harder, but I think numbers speak. We have to be vocal about it. And why we are not considered many a times fit for the leadership role is because I think we are emotional and we are not aggressive. So that is what I think people add in the
Thank you.
organization.
Interesting perspective, Dimple. Yeah, Tanushree, please.
I find this interesting because, let me throw statistics at everyone. This is a study world around, okay? In any conversation, if men do not dominate 70% of the time, they come out saying that they haven't got a chance to speak. Let's start with this. Do we face, yes, this is a study. Do we face discrimination and work double the hard? Yes, gender pay gap is a reality. We all know that exists can be between 8 to 30% across job roles. I'll share a small anecdote from my own experience. I work in the energy sector. I've worked with traditional utilities. There used to be no visible female at one point of time. I have worked into meetings where I've been told, we are going to discuss numbers, maybe you can go take some rest. This has happened, okay? This has also happened to me where I've walked into a meeting room.
So being a lady,
absolutely,
forget about numbers.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
We'll talk to you later.
I worked into a room full of suits, as one would say, and they looked at me and said, "Are you in the wrong room?" I was the funder there bringing the money, so I was definitely not in the wrong room.
This you are referring to early days of your career?
No,
It's a recent.
The second incident is as recent as pre-COVID, so yes.
Wow.
Women, I think, face lesser challenges these days in mid-management role. And there is a reason for it. You're dealing with people who have been exposed to initiatives like diversity, equality, and inclusion from a pretty early on time. You're dealing with younger men and younger women, and there is a definite age bias there, and we cannot look two ways. When you reach a certain age, you're also dealing with men who come from a very different upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see the faults in ourselves, and also women who have a very different upbringing. Often women leaders do not extend a hand to help other women. We keep seeing it. Why? I do not blame them, because they have worked double the harder. Maybe it weighs on them. Whatever it is, I'm not making an excuse or making a case here.
In order to prove themselves, they need to put extra efforts.
It doesn't matter. We all know about there is a structural barrier. There are gender barriers which women face. Answering your question directly, do women leaders, work double the hard to be where they are? Unequivocally, yes, we do.
Okay, I'm sure that most of the people out here would be. We'll come to you, ma'am. Post the session, we'll come to you. Yeah, please, Rupam.
No, I mean, I feel the same as you do. I think women do have to work hard, but on the other hand, there are a lot of men out in the industry who are very, very supportive. I don't want to be disrespectful. We have run a friends and family round, and all men have come forward and funded the brand. So there are people who are agreeing to this. There are people who respect what women bring on table. And of course, whenever there has to be a charm used, I think women do come forward and take that leeway.
Thank you, Rupam. Interesting perspective. Another question for you is, after spending 15 years in the corporate sector, what were the biggest patriarchal barriers you faced that motivated you to start your own business?
So I think a journey from a corporate to an entrepreneur is about a lot of other things, just apart from just the gender bias that you face. But of course, like you said, the top management is always dominated by men, and women are equally capable to be there. So I think just to kind of divert ourselves from that state of feeling, a lot of women do step out to kind of create or build something of their own, in which they do not need to have a boardroom filled up with men. And I'm very biased for women. In our organization, it's all women. We are inclusive of men, but yeah, they can step out and have rest somewhere while we are discussing.
But many of the men would be curious to know that, is there an opportunity for them as well? Or do you want to keep it, let's keep it only women-centric
For
organization?
women, by women, always.
Wow, wonderful. Kudos to Rupam for having this belief. So I guess we are finding very interesting perspective from each one of you. And right from whether women could be a good leader, whether, what all challenges Rupam had faced during, creating a new business out of it, energy infrastructure sector. So we have multiple, questions, though we have more questions, but keeping in mind the time constraint, one interesting question we would like to, if anyone can answer. Is it a similar stuff with a private organization, or is it, maybe between private and public? What do you have to say? Because I guess you have worked with Government of India, you are into private. So is it a similar norm or something is different?
Can I take that? I began my career with the Government of India, and now I work heavily both with private energy companies and also with state-owned utilities and energy companies. Is there a difference? Yes, there is, and a difference that often surprises a lot of people. All said and done, when you look at state-owned companies, and I'm going to restrict this to the sector I'm talking about because these can be very, very sector-specific. There are two things that are of advantages here, okay? One, they are bound by laws, which in a lot of cases are very progressive when it comes to hiring, retention, also of internal policies, infrastructure, things like having a creche facility, having a feeding rooms, stuff like that. One thing that surprises a lot of people is, one of the companies which started taking women engineers very, very early on into their thermal power plants was actually NTPC and not a private company. Okay?
Okay.
NTPC started, appointing women all 3 shifts of their power plants. So,
being a government organization,
exactly,
and they were ready to take that.
Absolutely. And they have been doing it for the longest time. The challenge that government organizations face is they can't recruit a certain number because of, again, laws which are supposed to be gender agnostic in terms of recruitment. Private companies, on the other hand, has that advantage where they can actually work around recruitment, saying we are going to increase or we are going to commit a number to recruit.
I guess what trend we have seen over the years, a lot of startups have started, these norms, like in terms of 50%.
Exactly. So they have started taking advantage of that. Right. Where it actually would play out better, I think, in terms of, taking advantage of better laws and also making the workplace better for women to keep working on and to rise to leadership role is something that I think we don't address enough, and that is called unconscious biases. If more and more private companies or public sector companies were to address unconscious biases through training, structural policies, we will see that gap coming down. We will see more women climbing up. So laws actually pose an advantage to to the public sector companies in terms of how progressive their internal policies are. Similarly, the law gives a little more flexibility to the private. So there is not a straitjacket answer to this. There are definite advantages and disadvantages where we see the gender wage gap, for example, in formal employment roles is lesser in public sector owned companies because they are governed strictly by those laws. As I said, I think the key here is to see what happens after recruitment.
Thank you, Tanushree. And interesting stats is because if you talk about a lot of startups these days, they have started period leaves, they have created creches for the kids and all. And over the years, I guess recently Zomato did it for the period leave, and a lot of new IT companies are doing it. So certainly we can see that people are evolving, corporates are evolving. And if in order to summarize, I guess, just because of the time constraint, if in order to summarize, so maybe you can start, Rupam, from perspective that, what you have to say because over the years, from say 15 years back to now, so whether it has evolved in terms of diversity or still there are organizations still, it's a taboo, people are skeptic, what do you have to say about it?
I think we've evolved. We've definitely evolved. There are more women in the boardrooms. There are more women in private public sector at the top position. There are more women entrepreneurs. more than anybody else. There are women funds that have come into picture now. A government is also supporting a lot of women founders by a lot of grants. So there is a lot of support. We've evolved, but there's a long way to go still.
Great, absolutely. Thank you, Rupam. Please, Tanushree.
I think, yes, definitely. We've come a long way. You see more women in labor force. You see more women, as entrepreneurs, as leaders. I think there is always going to be differences sector to sector. Some sectors are going to be more difficult to break into than others. Similarly, I think also some sectors are going to face the challenge of being, considered feminine by nature, which I think a lot of young boys who would like to break into, say, fashion or makeup see those challenges, right? And I think it's all part of the patriarchy. We have seen things get better, and I think it's time our diversity initiatives also start talking beyond gender and start looking into, inclusivity in terms of others, the entire spectrum of inclusivity.
Thank you, Tanushree. Your perspective, Dimple.
I would like to end this with saying that we're not discussing only the power of women or the women empowerment, but we're talking about diversity and inclusion when we're talking about patriarchy, equality, right? So 21% of the corporates have found increase in their profitability once they have adopted the model of diversity inclusion. And I think the numbers are high. On a study done, 77% of the corporates said that they want to go for diversity inclusion, but only 12% have achieved it. But as I just mentioned, 1% change in diversity is 3 to 9% in increase in revenue. Because I'm from sales, so I'm just ending with this by saying that diversity inclusion is for equality. It's not only for women. So to sum it up, I used to handle 54 women in my team, in sales team. But we found that more males are required in the team, and where it is, I think we will become better. So now we are around 78, 54 plus other males, and I definitely see a big change in my organization when we have gone towards diversity. And I think from time immemorial, we have learned that this world is based on Adi Shakti. It can't be men, it can't be women. It has to be together, we together. So that is what I want to say.
Thank you. Interesting perspective, Dimple. And I'm sure that just because of the diversity, corporates have shown profitability, increased productivity, faster decision making. And I'm sure diversity is here to stay, and certainly the numbers would go up. So thank you once again. And any 2-3 questions, of course, we can take it. Yeah, can you?
I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Professor Rajalakshmi. I teach in Delhi University. I teach sociology. Very quickly, I just want to share 1 or 2 research projects which I have done, related to all the questions.
Just a request because we are
I'm just going very fast. I interviewed about 72 HR managers across board. And, this was basically to understand the Maternity Benefit Act, which has increased to, 6 months. Now, the impact of this has been such that most of the people were not ready, even in a multinational company, to give maternity leave because they felt that it is going to harm their incomes because they could not afford. So all those companies where the turnover was less than 8 crores were not ready to give maternity. They, in fact, on some pretext, removed the women. So what I'm trying to say is very quickly, of course, it was a very long drawn research of 1 year. But very quickly, what I found is that, the role of the HR managers in all these companies are very essential. A, to take care of the maternity benefit and to ensure that the women are not, getting discriminated in kind of the projects which they get. 2, sexual harassment, which is also again there. A lot of times they see whether the employer or the employee who is more beneficial for the company, depending upon that, the cases are. So where we are going, 2 steps forward, we are going 10 steps backward. So I think it is very, very important that the HR managers should be trained and, there should be a lot of debate, all these things. So, of course,
very true.
Quickly,
thank you,
thank you
ma'am.
so much.
Thank you for bringing this insight. Please.
Bilal, can I quickly respond to that? Can I quickly just to, because you spoke about women, maternity leave and companies discriminating. I think I would also like to just share with you a trend which we see coming up, again, from larger companies, larger corporates and public sector companies in the power sector. The program that I support, one of the biggest work that we do is the Returning Mothers Initiative. large corporates, say like AWS,
There's a
Accenture.
gap in their career and then maybe they can come back.
Women who want to come back for a second innings. And large companies, CPSUs, they are willing to put their money into supporting these women to come back. Why? Because this is already a trained workforce. They just need a bridge training, so you're not actually spending money on recruiting again. I think the idea that, oh, this is going to be a cost
They
to us.
know about the company, they know the culture, it's always
Absolutely.
better.
And also there is an experience. Now the thing is, I think the initial reaction to the 6 months mat leave is also a knee-jerk reaction by companies saying, oh, this is a cost. Now, in often cases, when you give it a little more time to settle down, maybe that cost is actually an investment. So let's give it a little more time and understanding for that space too.
Thank you, Tanushree. Yeah, if you can just, we can take one question, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Devna. I'm an advocate by profession. Tanushree, my question is for you. A lot of times you see that leaders pay lip service to diversity and inclusion. So do you think there's a need for accountability within the teams itself? And will that be a measure which will help in future?
That's an important question. Yes. I think, you know what, a lot of our, and we all know it, right? A lot of the diversity measures are basically the boxes we tick because there is a legal framework in place. I think it does, I think companies where it is a part of their deliverables, part of deliverables of leaders, it actually, they do better in terms of diversity. Having said that, in my experience, we also see that when we start working on things like unconscious bias for top to mid management, companies do way better in terms of managing diversity initiatives. So there are strict legal measures, but there are also softer measures of training and capacity, which ultimately pushes this agenda forward. So should there be accountability? Of course, yes. If there is a law, if it is a legal, there is a legal framework, what is a legal framework without accountability to it? We need to put our money where our mouth is. But I think side by side, we need to back it up with initiatives like training, capacity, working with HR managers, which enables leaders to take decision. Quickly, I'll take 1 more minute. In my opinion, I work with a lot of CEOs and CMDs of power companies. They face 2 challenges. One is they don't find enough women to recruit because engineers don't want to join the power sector, female engineers. That's a different challenge. The second thing, a lot of leaders find it very difficult to push down diversity measures. Why? Because they face a resistance from employees. And then there is a reputational risk that they face. We all know it, right? We all know that siding, doing the right thing can bounce back to you as something that is, there are stereotypical reputational risks, attached to it. So I think accountability side by side with measures that actually work on building, breaking social barriers and on things like unconscious bias would go a long way.
Thank you. I guess because this topic is pretty exhaustive, even if we spend the entire day, we would have loads of discussions and debates. But again, thank you once again, PAP Summit for organizing such a beautiful event. And thank you, panelists, for your insights. I'm sure that each one, whosoever is present here, must have taken 1 or the 2 things from here. Thank you once again.
I want everyone to get up and say with me, inclusion begins with I. Can we all say it louder? Inclusion begins with
Would
I.
appreciate if you guys can just stand up to have more